The cardiovascular system. First, let's just clear up a little confusion about the terminology. When we talk about the term circulatory system, um, you're actually talking about two different systems. So that describes both the cardiovascular and the lymphatic system. We'll talk more about the lymphatic system later, but today we're going to talk about specifically the cardiovascular system, which includes your heart, your blood, and your blood vessels. And it transports blood around your body. Blood is actually what carries oxygen and carbon dioxide or gases, nutrients and waste throughout your body. It is a closed system for the most part. Now, of course, if you cut yourself or something like that, then you've opened the system, but that's not how it's designed to work. So your blood helps to maintain homeostasis by transporting hormones and nutrients and oxygen to your cells and then carrying away waste, specifically carbon dioxide. And your lymphatic system is also a fluid system that kind of leaks through the walls of your vessels and then seeps back in. We call that fluid lymph. And it's an open system. It can go in and out of the blood vessels, and it helps to fight disease. If you've ever had a sore throat or an ear infection and the doctor felt of your neck and said, oh, your lymph nodes are swollen, well, these are all of your lymph nodes that are in your body, and they help to fight infection. And so we'll talk, like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about your immune system. So let's go ahead and flip over to 450, where we have a fabulous picture of the heart and all the chambers. I know it doesn't look like the little heart you see on the Valentine's cards, but that's more like what your heart looks like. And so when we talk about the cardiovascular system, cardio means heart, vascular means vessel. And so we're looking at three main parts. We've got the heart, the blood, and the blood vessels. Your heart is actually about the size, if you took your hands and put them together like this and then made them into fists together, that's about how big your heart is when you're full grown. And it's not on the left side of your chest. I know we put our hand over our, quote, heart when we say the pledge, and we put it on the left, but your heart's actually right behind your sternum, so right in the middle, pretty much in the middle, and it's tilted kind of to the side. And so we have a common misconception from well-intentioned diagrams. We're trying to show in the diagrams that there are parts of your blood that have oxygen in them, and so they tend to show those with red lines, and parts of your blood that are deoxygenated or that have a high level of carbon dioxide and a low level of oxygen, and they show those with blue lines. And it is not any wonder that people have mistakenly thought, well, if it's oxygenated blood, it's red, and if it's deoxygenated, it's blue. No, that's just the color key that they used when they drew this. They could have picked any color. They could have picked green, and we would have thought we had green blood, okay? Your blood's red, regardless. Inside your body, outside your body, it's red. So that's just how they color the pictures. I know when you look at your arm, if you're looking through your skin, it appears to be blue. Your blood itself is not blue, it's red. So that's a myth. That's a common misconception. All right, so let's take a look at your notes. We have cardiovascular system, that's all one word. Heart is the cardio part, and vessels is the vascular part. Your circulatory system actually means, if you hear the word circulatory, that actually means cardiovascular and lymphatic. And they didn't actually know much about the lymphatic system until about 150 years ago. So the word circulatory sometimes is used interchangeably to mean the same thing as cardiovascular. It's really not exactly the same thing. Cardiovascular is part of the circulatory system, but you'll still hear it sometimes called circulatory. Your cardiovascular system is an organ system. It includes the heart, the blood, and the blood vessels, which are your arteries, your veins, and your capillaries. The main function is to transport blood around the body, which helps to maintain homeostasis by maintaining your body temperature, your hormone levels, your oxygen levels. Your heart is an organ that is made of cardiac tissue. Sometimes you'll hear it called myocardium. That's the official name of the heart, I guess. But most of the time people just call it the heart. Myo means muscle, cardia means cardiac, so heart. It's about the size of your fist. When it contracts, it squeezes or pumps the blood around your body. It has 4 chambers. We'll draw a diagram of it and label them all and do the pathway later. Your blood is a type of connective tissue. So if it's made up of different tissues, it's actually an organ. We don't usually think of it that way. You know, like you go donate blood, you don't say, oh, you're an organ donor. But technically, since it's made up of different kinds of tissue, it is an organ. It carries oxygen, nutrients, and hormones, which we'll talk more about in the endocrine system, to your cells, and then it gets rid of waste in the form of carbon dioxide. Now, the adult human has about 5 liters of blood in its body. And so if you think of a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper, that's about 2.5 bottles worth. Okay, if you're really well hydrated, you might have a smidge more. If you're dehydrated a little bit, you might have a little bit less. You can go and donate blood. That's about a pint or 2 cups of blood. You can live, and your body, your bone marrow will replace your blood cells. You might feel a little weak after you've given blood, but for the most part, you can do without some of that blood, just not too much at one time. The fluid part of your blood is called plasma, and it's made up of water mostly, minerals, nutrients, sugars, proteins, etc. If you've ever cut yourself, like a paper cut, or had a bloody nose, you know that your body will eventually stop the bleeding on its own by clotting, and the parts that actually do the clotting are called platelets, and they will form a blood clot, which will reduce the bleeding, which is a good thing, although sometimes you get a blood clot, people that get a blood clot that's in their circulatory system, or their cardiovascular system rather, it could cause some problems if it goes to your brain, your heart, or your lungs. But we have cells that actually fight pathogens or diseases. You might call them WBCs. That stands for white blood cells. They are in charge of forming your antibodies. You hear a lot about antibodies right now with COVID and everything. There's tests. They're checking your blood to see if it has antibodies for COVID, and that would tell you if you had been exposed to COVID and fought it off, or if you had had the vaccine. And so antibodies are for fighting things that aren't supposed to be in your body. Red blood cells, or RBCs, are the ones that actually carry the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. And actually in their formation they have a nucleus, but as they develop and they go to function and carry the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, they need so much room to do that they actually do not have a nucleus anymore. They're not prokaryotic. This is one of those exceptions to the rule kind of thing. We're eukaryotic, but this particular cell loses its nucleus along the way. So we have the heart, the blood, and the blood vessels. The arteries are the vessels that carry the blood away from the heart. A for artery, A for away. They have thick walls, and when you get your blood pressure measured, that's actually measuring the pressure of the blood on those walls. They're surrounded in smooth muscle, and that helps to move the blood through your body along with the heart. You also have some teeny tiny blood vessels called capillaries. And the capillaries are narrow vessels that allow for the exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, between the body cells and the blood cells. And that happens through a process called diffusion. And then we have veins. Veins are in charge of carrying the blood that has carbon dioxide in it from your cells, carrying on cellular respiration. It's a waste product, and they're carrying that blood back to the heart so that it can go to the lungs, get more oxygen, and then go back out to the body. So they actually have some valves that keep the blood from flowing backward. And so we will talk more about the blood pathway next week.